The Houston Texans squeaked by the Tennessee Titans 16-13 Sunday on a game-winning field goal, and there is little time to celebrate as the Texans have a Thursday night matchup to prepare for against the Buffalo Bills, who are coming off their own win yesterday. To discuss Sunday's game and preview the next matchup following a short week, we're joined by Houston Press writer and Bleav in Astros podcast co-host Jeff Balke. Hi, Jeff.
Good morning.
Jeff, I'll be honest, I feel like we could sit here and say absolutely nothing, and it might be more exciting than this game was. The Titans are not a very competitive team, so why did the Texans struggle to put points on the board until halfway through the third quarter?
Well, the Texans aren't very good. Bottom line, they're pretty terrible offensively, and they have their backup quarterback playing for them right now with Stroud out hurt in concussion protocol. And Tennessee's not a terrible defensive team. This was really a battle of two really bad offensive organizations, and we saw that on the field. The only people that were hurt more than the Titans fans were anyone else who happened to be watching the game. And it was just an awful. Really, until the last 5 or 6 minutes of the game, it was a terrible game overall. Yeah. Texans came out of it with the win. That's all that matters. Their defense is still, number one in the NFL for a reason.
So what is it that's limiting the offense the most this year? Is it just personnel? Is it scheme? Is it a little bit of everything?
There's some bad play calling, no doubt. Nick Caley, who's the offensive coordinator, there's been some real questions as to why he's made some of the choices he's made. Also, why they would choose an unproven, untested offensive coordinator to run a scheme like this. But the biggest culprit really has been the offensive line. The offensive line has been a little bit better here and there, but they've had to juggle so many different pieces with injuries and moving guys in and out of the lineup. It's really just been a problem. They haven't been able to run the ball effectively. They haven't been able to give their quarterbacks enough time to throw the ball. And that's the combination of that mixed with some of the confusing play calling, let's say, less than creative play calling. Has been their biggest downfall.
Jeff, if I didn't know any better, it sounds like you're talking about the Texans of last year. Why are they struggling with this 2 years in a row now?
Well, it's a great question. It doesn't make any sense, really. It's interesting with the Texans that they're an organization that seems to get stuck into these patterns. There was a number of years for 4 or 5 seasons where they were just terrible on special teams, right? Just consistently bad over and over and over again. And eventually they changed it. Now they're really, really good at special teams. So it's really hard to put your finger on exactly why these things have happened, other than the fact that, listen, they really didn't upgrade their offensive line. You could make an argument that they actually downgraded it over the offseason, even despite the fact that they knew that they really needed help in that area. And honestly, it is interesting to me that a team with a young, new head coach in DeMeco Ryans would bring in a young offensive coordinator who's never done the job before. Typically, when you have a young coach, you'll bring in someone as a veteran to run the offense, because it just helps them to, helps to support them, and it helps to bring in someone who's proven. So it's been just a weird year for the Texans overall, and I think it's just going to keep getting weirder, frankly.
So you mentioned the one bright spot for the team is, of course, the defense. During yesterday's game, they got 3 sacks. They got a fumble recovery. How sustainable is the approach of the defense just keeping the Texans hanging around for the rest of the season?
Well, it's not sustainable if you want to win. It's sustainable if you want to have a great defense. But ultimately, the Texans force turnovers like nobody else. They're a great pass rushing team. Especially with their 2 biggest pass rushers. They're exceptional on the back end as well. Their secondary is very, very good in coverage. They've struggled a little bit to get off the field on third downs, but overall they're just very, very good, and they will keep the team in a game. This is a team I'd be surprised it gets blown out by anybody, but you still have to score points. You still have to put points on the board, particularly touchdowns. You can't just come down and kick field goals every time. And that's going to be a problem for this team as long as they are not able to perform consistently on the offensive side of the football.
So, as I said, the team does not have very much time to enjoy this win because they've got to get back on the field on Thursday night. This has been a pretty common discussion point in the league about whether there should be these extra games that have players on short weeks. Is it asking too much to play another football game with only 3 days rest?
Well, conversely, you also get 10 days off after. They call it the mini bye because they won't play again until a week from Sunday. So you know, it's a questionable thing whether they. I mean, obviously the NFL wants to spread its wings and be on every night if possible. And so that's probably going to continue. I don't see any of that really changing. For the Texans, the one advantage here that they might have is that it's very possible CJ Stroud is out of concussion protocol by the time they're able to play on Thursday. And at that point, then they would get a fresh quarterback back who hasn't played in a couple of weeks. But that's a fingers crossed hopeful thing. And they're playing the Bills. Listen, they're playing one of the best teams in the AFC, albeit a complicated team in the Bills, not a team that's been spectacular all year long. But they're a very, very good football team, certainly still a contender, particularly with their quarterback, Josh Allen. They're very, very going to be very, very tough to beat, even here, even against this defense.
After their win against the Titans, the Texans are at 500 on the season. If they manage to get another win on Thursday against the Bills, how does that impact their playoff chances?
Well, definitely improves them dramatically. I saw a stat yesterday that said 5-5 teams have a 31% chance of making the postseason. 4-6 teams have a 9% chance. So any wins that they can stack, onto their schedule is going to be a benefit. Look, nobody's really losing. The Jaguars won yesterday. The Colts were on a bye week, but they're basically one of the best teams in the AFC. You've got the Chiefs who are struggling, shockingly. So you've got really good team, and of course the Ravens who had a bunch of players out injured. Now they're healthy and they've won 4 in a row. So it's not an easy road, and the Texans aren't going to win the division. So they're going to have to rely on some other teams to not be as good as they thought they would be. I think it's going to be a struggle for them to reach the postseason. To me, 31% at 5-5 seems high for this particular team.
Jeff Balke writes for the Houston Press and co-hosts the Bleav in Astros podcast. Jeff, thanks for talking with us.
Thanks so much.